How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. What's up, guys? This is Mighty Q here with Mighty Q's Locker, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess this is a combination of both reaching goals, but more or less how to really get the things that you want and how to be able to plan on that. So, using the metaphor, that how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time applies across the board really to anything that you're trying to do. So I'm going to tell you guys a story about what happened to me this morning on my run, and that's how I'm going to kind of tie this all together. So I hope you guys enjoy, and as always with this podcast, I don't really ask or try to sell anything on here. Just the only thing is if you do enjoy it, then please just share it with a friend and leave a review. So this morning, I decided I was going to go out for a run because I have been talking with multiple different fight promoters and things like that because, as you guys know, I have been training for MMA and have been looking for a fight for a while now. And today, I decided, it was actually yesterday that I decided, but this morning when I woke up, I was going out for a run. That was what I was going to do, and I was having a tough time deciding, am I going to do 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, 4 mile, 5, 10, 20, 100, full David Goggins. And essentially when I was thinking about it, it first started with, I was running a mile every other day, and I was doing it Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday is the days that I was running 4 days a week, and I was running a mile. And that was this winter. But I was doing that on a treadmill. That's when I was at the gym. And my whole goal with that is I was trying to lose a minute on my mile time. My fastest mile time at the time was like 6:45 or something like that. And I was trying to shave off an entire minute. So I essentially just kept, I was running, whether it be a mile and a half, I was just trying to stretch it out to where I could really push and, see how fast my mile time could get. But this was a little bit different this morning because I didn't want to just, try to go run out a really fast mile, because the one thing that I noticed about running a mile is it really isn't that far. Like, for someone who doesn't run, and I really don't, I finally got to the point where, okay, a mile is a decent distance, but it's not very hard. I feel like I'm not really pushing myself. And yes, I can try to run it, faster and faster each time. But I felt that today at the start of the week, I wasn't going to go lift and hit legs today. I kind of wanted to start tapering off some of my lifts, and I wanted to get in better shape this last month. I kind of want to hone things in. I want to make everything crisp and clean. So for this next month of training, it's essentially going to be a lot of cardio training. I'm still going to get some lifts in, but it's going to be a lot more, cardio, endurance, and just making sure that my technique and everything is right. So this run, I still hadn't decided on a distance. I still hadn't decided on what I wanted to do yet. And 3 miles initially kind of popped in my head because 3 miles is a good number. 3 miles, it's like, okay, that's pretty taxing. If I were to run that at, about an 8-minute pace, that's about 24 minutes. I was like, okay, that, 24 minutes is good. It's 1 minute shy of 5-minute rounds, which I'm not fighting 5-minute rounds. I would be fighting three 5-minute rounds or 3 3-minute rounds. And that was kind of part of it, because then, Rocky popped in my head. And I just remember when Mick was like, for a 10-minute fight, or I forget that part, he's like, you got to train for, 10,000 hours. And so I initially was kind of like, okay, well, if I run 3 miles, that's probably going to be a little short. And then I kind of thought to myself, and I was like, okay, I thought back 10 years ago when I was in my freshman year in high school. And we used to do this thing called a Ranger Run. So I live pretty close to my old high school. And the thing that we used to do was we would start from the school. We would run down to the highway. and we'd turn around and run back. That's what the Ranger Run was. And this street to the highway it's straight. And you can see the highway from the school. And it's about 2 miles away, and it's about 4 miles round trip. So this is the farthest distance I'd ever run in my life. I'd done the Ranger Run a handful of times, and I never really needed to run more than that. And I never really was like, oh, hey, I'm just going to go run for a really long time today. I just never wanted to do it. So anytime I had run far, it was always right about 4 miles. And I never really cracked the 4 mile mark. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the Ranger Run today, and I was like, okay, well, 10 years ago, I was my freshman year in wrestling. I was in pretty good shape, but more than anything, like I was wrestling all the time, and I felt like I was in pretty good shape. And so I was like, okay, let's really test myself. I was like, I remember, like, I would be dying on these runs because I don't run. I don't like running. It's not something I find enjoyable. And so I was like, okay, it's been 10 years. Let's go do a Ranger Run. Let's see how I would do if I did a Ranger Run today. Because, you know, I've kind of had this thought in my head where I was like, I feel like I'm in a lot better shape than I was at any point of time when I was wrestling. Like, I feel like I finally crested a new level. I feel like I'm back in shape, and I'm better than I was before, and I've got a lot of room to go. But anything, I was like, okay, Ranger Run it is. So then 4 miles is in my head. Then I got to thinking, and I was like, okay, what if I ran to the school, did the Ranger Run, and then ran home? So a collective 6 mile round trip, because it's a mile to the school and then a mile back. So I said, okay, let's do it. So I start off on this run, get going, you know, feeling good. First, like, half mile, it's, you know, haven't really set in with the temperature. It was a little humid this morning, but nice and cool, you know, 80, 85 degrees, but little humid. So, you know, the sweat came very easily when, you know, the first of the run. Kind of got going, kind of found my stride. And for me, I use this run tracker app. And so I can, you know, have it call out a bunch of different stats at a bunch of different times. So I can have it call out, I have it do it every half mile. I have it call out how much time has elapsed, my distance, and then my speed. I then changed, it used to be like this woman's voice, and it was like this like soft, like easygoing voice. And so I messed with that today, and I found that you can change the tones. And so I decided to change, and they had one that was like a drill sergeant or drill officer or something. And so I decided to choose that one. I feel like that one applies well to what I was doing because, you know, I don't like running, and I don't like the soft tone. I don't like the half mile, 1 minute, 58 seconds. Like, I don't like that. I wanted it to be a lot more like, hey, half mile, you're at 2 minutes, you're running this fast. And that's exactly what it was. And more importantly, that the thing that I liked about it the most is after it told me those stats, it gave me this little short clip of a saying that drill sergeants would use. And, you know, I think one of them was like, I'm not your mama, I don't bake cookies, or something like that. You know, something along the lines of, you know, I'm not here to bake cookies. That was the perfect tone that I needed for this run. In life, I feel a lot of people bring the wrong tone to anything that they're doing. When you're in a moment that's meant to be serious, you have to be serious. If you're in a moment that calls for, you know, joy and happiness, you have to be joyful and happy. You can't be serious in that moment. So for this was, you know, a small minor detail in the grand scheme of the run, but that is something that I felt really, really helped today. Because I'm a huge fan of David Goggins. I know he, talks in that manner and has that manner, that military mindset, and hey, no bullshit, get up and do it, suck it up, go get it done. And I'm a lot of that same mentality. That's how I've played sports my entire life, is whatever you want to do, get up and go do it. No one asked, no one cares. Go do it. So for me, I'm in this run. I got to about a half mile, and when I first started, there was either some high schoolers or I think they were high schoolers. I think it was the cross country team that was practicing. And, they were out on the sidewalk and they were running. And, it was kind of cool because the one guy who was running, and like he gave me a high five as, I ran past him because, he was running to me and I was running past him. And so, he gave me a high five as he ran about his way, and, I kept moving. And, that was kind of something early on of like kind of initially energized me, because it was like, hey, heck yeah, like he's out here getting after it, I'm getting after it. Like, hey man, I appreciate you. And, I know when I'm out on the run, if I see other people out there, I don't say much, but I kind of give them a little head nod like, hey, I see you. Good job. Like, keep up, keep after it. And that was something I kept up with the entire run. I saw quite a few people out on the run today, and it was that exact same thing. Give them a little head nod, little gesture. But early on in the run, there was a girl who was, she was running and then she stopped and then she was walking. And as I, kind of ran past her, I just gave her a thumbs up and I said, hey, keep up, keep it up. Good job. And I just kept going. No clue. Didn't turn back. Didn't say anything. No clue. Had my headphones on. It was just, hey, just initial words of encouragement. Just kept it moving. Got about to the 1.5 mile mark. And the one issue with this run is how straight those 4 miles are. So when you're running on that straight part, so once I got to 1 mile and then I was about a half mile in, you can see the highway the entire time you're running towards it, because it's flat, roughly flat. There's like small little like ups and down, but you can see it the entire time. It is right there in front of you. And the only thing I kept thinking this entire time was, wow, 10 years ago, there was no sidewalk for me here to run on. When we did the Ranger run, we used to run in the median. So it's a 2-lane road on both sides, and there's a grass median in the middle. And we used to run in the grass median. That's how we did the run. There wasn't a sidewalk that made it all the way down. And so now there's neighborhoods that are built all the way down to one side, and there's a sidewalk that runs the entire way, and it's a nice wide sidewalk, and it's nice and new, and there are sprinklers on, watering the plants and the things that go along with the neighborhood. And this just, the entire time I kept thinking about it, I was just like, 10 years ago, none of this was here. 10 years ago, we were over there running in the grassy median with holes and uneven stuff. We're trying to pay attention not to roll an ankle. We're trying to watch out for cars because, no one really pays attention when they're driving, especially with the way that everyone is with their phones and whatnot. And, we're just out here just trying to pay attention, trying to do these little things. And then, the voice popped in and it was like, 2 miles. I was like, huh. All right, well, I'm already a third, and that's the initial thing I thought of. And I said, I'm a third away into the run. I'm feeling pretty good. I've maintained my speed, and I was running about a 5.88 miles per hour. And that was kind of the number that I was looking for. I was like, I think I can run at about 5-6 miles per hour for the entirety of this run, so that way I can run for about an hour. And that's all I kind of was thinking about. I was like, I think I should run for about an hour. And so I just kind of kept up this pace, and, I started out, it was like 5.88, and I was like, okay, let's just try to keep this pace. So at about that 2 mile, it popped in, I'm a third of the way. I'm at a good pace. My stride's starting to really kind of feel good. And I just kind of was like, all right, here we go. This is what we do now. And that was my reality shift. That is where it changed for me. I had to get in the new mindset of, I don't care if your legs hurt. I don't care if your lungs are on fire. I don't care if you're sweating. I don't care if sweat is in your eye. I don't care if your arms hurt. I don't care if your shoulders hurt. I don't care if your feet hurt. You are running 6 miles. You are running to the highway. You're touching the highway. You're turning around, running back to the high school, turning and running down a separate street to get back home. That was my goal for the day, and that was it. So I was a third of the way in, and that was initially okay, yeah, feeling good, and then it kind of started to creep up. I'm getting kind of tired. My legs are kind of hurting. And that little voice in the back of your head, hey, you can slow down. Hey, no one knows you're out here. Hey, why are you really doing this? Hey, what's this for? Hey, there's an easier workaround here. That's not what you want. That voice that chimes in your head, that's the weakness. You have to overcome that. And so the reason I started this with, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. Is I made it through the 2 mile pretty okay. 2.5, okay. Right as I started to get to the highway, I was probably 200 to 300 yards out. And of course, again, I can see the highway the entire time. And so you see how far it is when you're 2 miles away. And it just kind of, it seems like it's never getting closer. You're taking all these steps and it's really not getting that much closer. But that last about 200 to 300 yards, as I really was able to see it. And so now there's a gas station on the right side. And so as I was just outside of this gas station, I was coming up on where it starts its own part of the sidewalk and whatnot. And I was getting closer, I'm getting closer, and getting closer. And this little thing in my head that was like, oh, you can stop at the halfway point. And I think I may have actually said it out loud. And I was like, why would I stop? And then I was like, well, I can stop because I'm going to stop here and then I'm going to do some shadow boxing. I'm going to stop and kind of catch my breath. I'm going to stop. And I was just like, nope, that's not in the plans. This is a run. I'm out for a run. I'm not shadow boxing at the halfway point to catch my breath. I'm going to touch that highway and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to start running in the other direction. I was trying to find a cheat. I was trying to find a workaround. I was trying to find a way to make it easier. And your mind does that. What you are doing, your brain wants to do it easier. Your brain doesn't like it when things start to hurt. You have to have control over that. Because the human body is the only machine that gets better with work. I know I say it all the time, but it really is. If I were to go out and run 3 days from now and go run that same exact run, I would do it a little bit better. And then if I did it every third day or whatever that ends up being, I would gradually get better and better and stronger and faster each time I did it. So the notion that, something pops in your head, you can't listen to that. Stay on task. Keep doing what you're doing. And so once I got to the halfway point and I turned, my legs started to really feel it. The legs are kind of tired. The hips are kind of tight. Shoulders a little tighter. Breathing isn't as easy now. And I'm only halfway. And that's the initial thought. Hey, you're only halfway. Look, you can see the school. Look how far away it is. Look at because the baseball field faces the road. Look at that big fence. You're nowhere close. And look at the auditorium, the highest point of the school. Look how far away that school is. You're all the way back here. Why don't you just walk? Why are you running? Why are you doing it? No one knows you're out here. You can walk. That was the constant thought in my head right as I passed the halfway point. And as I kept going, because it's true. Once I turned, it's a straight line back. And you know what? You see a giant school far off in the distance. And, I took 100, 200 steps, and it felt like, oh, I got no closer. And that's exactly how life feels. You set a goal, you set a task, you start doing it, and you can't see any of the work. 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 Oh, so might as well just stop. There's no point in doing this anymore. I should just stop. I'm not getting any closer. I'm not reaching my goal. I'm not doing the task. I should just stop. No one knows what I'm doing anyways. It's easier. How about I just go and have someone tell me what to do? Or how about I just stop and, I can just walk all the way back, or, I can just take my time, or maybe I can do something else. That's not the answer. You have to keep moving. Are you able to take another step? Then take it. Can you take another step? Then take it. Can you take another step? Then take it. And so it started to be easier for me that's initially what I was saying. And I kept up roughly at the same pace. I got slower as the run went on. I think I ended up finishing, I think I was at like 5.7 miles per hour when the run was that last little bit. But I was able to take another step. I just kept saying in my head, can I take another step? Yep. Keep going. And I get kind of tired. And I said, can I take another step? Yep. And I keep going. And then I was setting these little markers where I was looking like 3, 4, 5 sidewalks, how they're split in squares. I was looking at those little lines. I was like, make it to that one. And so, you're taking like 10 steps and you're crossing it, and it feels good. You're like, oh, well, let me try to get to that one. You keep going. Let me get to that one. You keep going. Let me get to that one. You keep going. It's the exact same thing as the elephant. You just have to keep taking bites. You have to keep taking more and more bites. And the more that you take, and if you keep taking them, eventually, it's going to be gone. And that was the exact same thing on my run. So instead of looking up and looking at the school and saying, wow, that's so far away. There's no way I'm going to make it there. That's so far. Your legs hurt. Your legs are dying. You're feeling it. You can't make it there. Your lungs are on fire. You're not breathing very easy. You're huffing and puffing. Your feet hurt. You can feel the blisters forming. But instead, I just looked forward, tilted my eyes down a little bit, and looked ahead 3 or 4 spaces, because those were my next steps. I didn't know the next steps when I got to the school. There's too many of them. But I can look at the next steps that I had right in front of my face, and I took those. 3, 4, 5 squares at a time, and just kept doing it. Get to the next one. Get to the next one. Get to the next one. Take another step. Can you take another step? Yep. Then do it. Keep going. Take some more steps. Get to that square. Okay, get to that square. And the next thing you know, you hear the voice pop in your head. 3.5. 4. 4.5. 5. And it was interesting when I got to it was just before I got to the 5 mile mark. It was just after I was just about back to the school. I think I had turned and I was, coming up the road. And there's a steep incline right next to the school on the road where it comes into the light. It's a pretty steep incline. And it's not that it's really steep. It's just that it's prolonged enough that I know that I'm running uphill, and it was uphill for about 3 to 400 yards. It's uphill. And at that moment, knowing that I'm almost a mile out, that I have to make it now up a hill after I just made it to 4 miles. I had just run the farthest I've ever run. And now I have to run uphill. And that's exactly what life does too. Just when you think you're going to achieve it, just when you think you cracked the code, just when you think you've got everything, you're about to face a challenge where you're about to have to go uphill. And it's going to take more effort. You have to push through more. And you have to keep those same tactics. So that 4 or 5 squares turned into like 2. I was like, make it to that one. Make it to that one. Make it to that one. Just keep taking steps. Can you take another step? Yep. And keep taking them. And then once I crested the hill, I knew it was all downhill. I was at the top. And that downhill was going to carry me and give me the needed momentum, the needed speed to make it all the way back. And it works exactly the same way. Whatever goal, whatever task, whatever thing you're chasing, there's going to be an early stage where your mind says, no, why are you doing this? This is dumb. You can stop. No one knows. And then your brain's going to know, well, we know he's going to keep doing it, but maybe we'll just change it slightly. Oh, this is the farthest you ever got. You can stop now. Or then you get to that point. All right. You can't run up a hill. You just ran as far as you've ever run. How are you supposed to run up a hill now? And you get to that point. And you had done everything that you needed. You went to the unknown territories. You went to the unknown waters. Because you get to the top of the hill. From that point forward, it was easy. I had a little downhill stretch. A little downhill. It wasn't very far, but it was the same. It was roughly about the same amount of downhill as it was uphill that I just ran through. So it gave me the little downhill, and it's right back to that flat. And that downhill gave me the needed speed to maintain on flat ground, and I finished it out all the way to 6 miles. And so the main lesson that I really found from this is it's just those big goals have to be chopped up into really small ones. Whatever goal you're chasing after, if you want to be a state champ, you want to be a national champ, you want to get a scholarship, you want to graduate, whatever it is, you can't look at the end goal and only look at the end goal. You have to know what your next step is. So I like to talk about the mountain analogy that I make all the time. It's one of my favorite things ever. When you get to the top of a peak, you have newfound vision. You're at a new higher point. You're higher than you were at the bottom. And at that point, you are able to see more. You can see over the top of things. And at that new higher point, you're able to see a higher peak. You're able to see a place that you can get to next. And so to get from that first peak that you're at to the second peak, which is the higher one, you have to walk down from the first peak. You don't get to just walk a tightrope right across. You don't get to hop on a jetpack and fly right across. You don't have a zip line. You have to walk from the top of the peak down into the valley, through the valley, to come up on the other side. And then you have the uphill hike and battle to get all the way to the new higher peak, which is only going to take more effort than the first time because it's a higher peak, so it involves more steps, more planning, more process, and more fighting. And then you get to the top of that second peak. And you can look back and you can see down below you the last peak that you were at, and you have newfound vision, and you can see further than you could see before. and you're able to see another peak that's slightly higher. And you know to get to that next peak, you have to climb down to the valley, go through the valley, hike up the other side, hike up more, and go through more, and fight through more to get to the higher peak that's going to take more steps than the first one, and it's going to take more steps than the second one. When you get to the valley and you're walking down and it's only getting worse, and once you get to the valley, then it gets dark, and now you're in the valley and you're walking down and you're at your very lowest point, that is the beginning of the new peak. So when you come down from the second peak, you're feeling great. And you know that, hey, I know where this third peak is, and you're feeling good, and you feel great. You feel amazing. You know, you've got this newfound vision. You see the new goal. You've set it. You said, I'm going there. I'm going to climb that third peak. And so you're walking down, and then you get to the valley, and then it's dark, and now you can't see the peak. And now it's really dark, and now you're at a really low point. And right at the bottom of that valley is the lowest point that you've been at. But that's only the beginning to the new side. You can climb up that other side, and every step you take is only in the positive direction, because that is ground zero for the new peak. But if you turn around and go backwards, back towards the second peak, which you already know isn't as high as the place that you want to go, you're going to have to go back through that valley and go back down until you get to that ground zero. There is no hopping over that valley. Just because you made it to zero and you turned around and you went back to the light because you thought that's where it was, that light was what you didn't want, what you've already seen, that lower peak. And sometimes you do have to go backwards so you can say, hey, am I moving in the right direction? Am I really still on the right path? Is that peak in that direction? Am I walking in the right direction? But if that happens and you make it out of the valley on the wrong side, on the side that you've already been on, you still have to walk back down through the valley. There's no getting around that. You have to go back down into the darkness, back down into the valley, because ground zero starts at the very bottom of the valley. So when you hit rock bottom, when you're at your lowest point, when you're at the absolute bottom, you think this is the absolute worst that I've ever been through, just know, take the needed steps in the right direction. Because when you take the steps in the right direction, you are only getting closer to the thing that you want, not farther. Your lowest point is ground zero if you make the right steps, if you keep moving forward. And then you come up out of the valley and you're in the new side. You're now out of the darkness. You're still at the bottom, but you're out of the valley, you're out of the darkness, and now starts the journey to the top. As you're already on the way, you're already almost there, you just have to keep taking those steps. No matter how small they are, whether if it's just take one more step, can I take one more step? Yes, then take it. Even if it's, I'm putting half a foot forward, if you're putting a toe forward, even if you fall, make sure you fall forward. But when you do fall, like Les Brown says, make sure you fall on your back so that way you can look up. And if you can look up, you can get up. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me today. Hopefully you guys learned a lesson from this story. And if you guys enjoy this episode, then all I ask is please share it with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with a loved one. But either way, I'll catch you guys on the next one.